Hello, my name is Wesley Wallace, and I'm a student news reporter for Radford University's Tartan newspaper. And today I'll be interviewing Jorge Andres, a sportscaster in the sports industry and a former Radford University alum. How are you today?
Great. Happy to be on and happy to be here.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. And during my research process for this interview, I discovered some interesting things about you. You actually immigrated to the U.S. when you were 5 years old, and you were actually raised in Springfield, Virginia. And I actually, around when I was like 1 or 3 years, 1 to 3, I grew up in Springfield. And then you
Uh,
actually began your on-air career in Fredericksburg, and I live in Stafford, just like a few miles away from Fredericksburg. So we're kind of similar in that area of Northern Virginia. So I wanted
abs-
to so I wanted to,
yeah, very similar paths.
so I wanted to ask you, what was your experience like growing up, first immigrating from Peru to the United States, and why is Virginia home to you? What is so special about Virginia to you?
Well, your first question, growing up as an immigrant was, I wouldn't say like my family always didn't make it a big deal,
Hmm.
which helped a lot. We honestly, we never my brothers and I never saw each other different. We were lucky enough to be treated, well in Springfield and in Northern Virginia. I think that, Northern Virginia being a progressive part of the state, I think definitely helped. But it was important to my family and to me to keep our Peruvian roots and keep our family heritage alive, despite us being in the United States and assimilating very well to American culture and being, as American as you can be. But, we also incorporated food in our lives. Peruvian food is a big staple of our family. I speak perfect Spanish, read, write, just like my brothers. Um, because it was important for my mother and for my father to keep that alive. My mom always had our rule. She said, Spanish at home, English wherever else you want. And, as a kid, that can be kind of annoying, sure. But like as an adult, my goodness, I'm so glad that my mother did that because I speak perfect Spanish. And that actually opened many doors to my career. Now, in terms of Northern Virginia, DMV, DC area, it's my hometown, man. I love it. I grew up there. I have many, many, many fond memories of Springfield, Virginia. Funny you mentioned Stafford, Fredericksburg, because my family actually now lives in Fredericksburg, Virginia. They moved south as Northern Virginia kept growing.
Hmm.
This was right when I went to Radford, actually, right when I went to college, 2002. My family then moved down to Fredericksburg, but Northern Virginia, DC area has been my hometown, not just because every single sports team like the Redskins, Wizards, Capitals, Nationals, DC United are all my teams, but that whole DMV swag, if you will, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia swag that people that grew up there have, I just, no matter where I am, whether it's, Connecticut, New York, LA, Miami, I'm a DC boy.
And actually, you actually began your on-air career in Fredericksburg in 2006 as a sports anchor for the former Spanish language station Union Radio 1350 AM WNTX. So I wanted to ask you, throughout your early career, whether in middle school or high school, what actually interested you in broadcast journalism, being a sportscaster? Was it something that was around your family, or was it something that you wanted to pursue independently?
That's a great question. So a couple of things. It's kind of a two-sided answer to that. One of them, yes, my father has always been a great writer. He's worn many hats. He's had several different type of jobs in different industries. But one of the jobs that he had that he did very well at was in radio production, and he's always been a great writer, a great speaker, and I kind of I always enjoyed that and took after him in that sense. And the other part of your question, what interested me in getting into this career was, I played football all through high school. I went to Radford, for 2 years. Then I transferred. I had an opportunity to play football at George Mason University. They had the beginning of a program, which now has been completely wiped out, like many other universities. But back in 2005, I believe, they wanted to build together a D1 program. They had some scholarships that they were giving away, not 53 scholarships like most universities do, but they were building towards that. So I was like, hey, this might be my last chance to play football, and it would be closer to home. So I decided to move back home and do that. And then after a while, after maybe about a season and a half, my body started telling me something. It started telling me, it hurts. And football is a tough sport. So what can I do that I can do as a career? Because I'm definitely not going to play at an NFL level or anything like that. So what can I do as a career that I'm still around sports, I'm still around football, but I don't have to, put my body through such a rigorous day-to-day. And that was sports journalism. I was like, hey, I'm a good writer. I like being on camera. I've always been a center of attention kind of guy. And I said, hey, why not mix my passion for sports and football with my ability of speaking and writing, and mix it together and see what happens. And that kind of evolved into, okay, now I'm going to do journalism. I had some opportunities at George Mason. I had a radio program at the university radio station. I was part of the television station there. I wrote for the paper there, actually. So that was kind of the birth of, okay, I'm going to be a journalist, and I'm going to be a sports journalist, because I kind of found a niche where I can do what I love and also use what I'm good at.
And what was the transition like from being on radio to being on camera? Because in radio, nobody can see you, and your opinions are kind of expressed through the airwaves. So what made you actually want to be in front of the camera, and how did that transition happen? Was it kind of like the quote unquote climb the ladder process, like work your way up, or was it something that happened quickly?
So first of all, I'm very, very blessed and lucky. Hard work and luck go hand in hand, that I got to start my career in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not necessarily my hometown, but in my home state, at least, of Virginia. I started in Fredericksburg, Virginia. But a lot of people don't do that. You usually go to a smaller market, you work your way up, like you just mentioned, and you go ahead and do that. I got very lucky and had the opportunity to do that in my hometown. And the hard work part of it was the language part of it. I started in Spanish language before I transitioned to English language. In my head, I could, flip a switch and do one or the other. But that opened some doors for me. I started in radio, but starting in radio opened doors on television. Just like English and Spanish is the same thing in terms of it's a language. It's just one is in English, one is in Spanish. Radio and television, it's the same thing in terms of communicating and expressing your points. One just has a very rigid structure, television, and one kind of is open-ended. Radio, I love radio in the sense that you could, let's just say we start talking about something and we really see that there's a nice little nugget there, or there's something that the callers like or whatnot. We could talk all day about it. Television is very, you got 30 seconds to talk about this story. You got 2 minutes for this package. You got a hard out in 15 seconds. So you're kind of, very, 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 very structured. While radio, you could just, if you got something good, you could just talk about it all day. So when I made that transition, I was very happy that I did radio first and then television, because the thing about television that a lot of people don't know, or maybe not even know, just don't notice, is that there are, it doesn't matter if you're at a local television station or if you're at ESPN, at the national network, things go wrong. Computers break and things go wrong all the time. So you'll notice if you watch TV, if you see a deer in the headlights type of look of a television anchor, it just means they're not that experienced. But I was lucky enough to have that radio background that when things did go wrong, I could just keep talking and talking and talking and talking, because I had that experience from that. And that ad lib, if you will, that vamping gives the producer, the director, the graphics producer, whoever it may be, whatever part of the program may be going wrong, buys them time to fix it. So that radio jump to TV kind of bridged it over there and made it an easier transition for me.
And after graduating high school, you mentioned earlier that you went to George Mason. So what kind of led you to George Mason? Then from George Mason, what led you to Radford?
Well, I went to Radford first. I went from high school in Springfield, Virginia, Robert E. Lee High School at the time, to Radford University, and then from Radford University to George Mason. Radford, look, I'll say this. I loved my time at Radford. Absolutely loved it. My best friends and I talked about jumping in a time machine and going back because it was a phenomenal school. I was part of a great organization. I was a Phi Kappa Sigma fraternity member. My fraternity was amazing. I met some of my best friends of life. I learned a lot at the university in terms of being independent and being on my own. It was the first time to, be away from home. And Radford's one of those universities, like, that it's in Radford, and not a lot of people are from Radford. So you really gotta grow up, gotta mature, and learn how to run the ropes and by yourself. And that's something that Radford taught me. And the reason I left was because I found an opportunity with George Mason to pursue athletics and to pursue, which eventually to pursue this career. But my time at Radford was fantastic. The best men at my wedding, because I had two best men, were from Radford University, and we actually often go back still. Although my degree reads George Mason, I have Radford as my alma mater all the way, and we go back plenty of times a year.
And what's interesting, at your time at Radford, you were also part of Phi Kappa, I'm saying it wrong, Phi Kappa Sigma.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like, and how involved were you on campus with different organizations?
That experience was awesome. It really was. Met some of the greatest guys, really, really good dudes that I'm still friends with, very close with to this day. I don't want to date myself, but, that's almost 15 years ago. And really good people. We did yeah, sure. Did we have some fun? Everybody does in college, but we did some good things for the university too. We raised a lot of money for a lot of foundations and philanthropic organizations that we kind of founded as the fraternity's mission. So that was cool. We go back to athletics. The Interfraternity Council had fraternal athletics leagues where we got to do flag football, soccer, basketball, and each organization would go against each other. And that's, again, some of the coolest stuff I've ever done. There's some of the greatest memories I have, and me and my buddies playing soccer, playing football, playing basketball against other fraternities, and then kind of having bragging rights for that semester. And that was a lot of fun, of fun in how we were involved and how really the birth of pursuing sports came about.
And after graduating from George Mason, what was the trajectory of your career after graduating from George Mason, and how did you land at ESPN working on SportsCenter?
So it actually started before I graduated. One of the biggest things I tell every single class that I speak at or student that I talk to, there's two things that if you want a job in radio or television or even writing somewhere online or for a print company, is one thing. Have yourself on tape. Have as much as you can of yourself on a video reel, on an audio reel, or print samples, just so that that can be your materials that you show. That's number one. And number two, intern. When I was still in college, my senior year, I was interning. I interned for 2 full semesters, so a full year. I was in the DC area. It was then called Red Zebra Broadcasting, which was owned by Dan Snyder, and he owned the Washington Redskins radio network. They were launching several other radio sticks in the area. And I interned. I interned in every department. I was the client services intern and did that. Then I went to the reporting intern and did that. Then I went to sales intern and did that. And I did it for so long. And this was back in the day when they didn't pay interns. So, and I did it for free. You know, I bartended at night to make rent. And, but I just interned until it got to the point where, you know, they turned to me. They're like, there are no more departments where you can intern in. So I went out and I reached out to the CEO of the company, who's a great friend of mine now, big mentor of mine. His name is Bruce Gilbert. He's now with Cumulus Radio out in Dallas. But I reached out to him and I said, hey, look, just wanted to thank you for the time. And I really appreciate everything that I've learned. It's definitely helped me grow. And yeah, this, you know, Friday will be my last day. There's no more, there isn't anywhere else where I can intern in this company. So thank you. Basically like a thank you email, but also, you know, extending an olive branch if perhaps there was something. And he emailed me back to my shock because I didn't think a CEO would email me back. And he said, hey, look, I've never had an intern email me, and I think that's great that you did. I'll keep my eye out for you and see if there's anything there. I ended up getting hired, making $6.25 an hour as a marketing intern. And basically, I handed out flyers basically at Redskins games. But to me, I was like, boom, I'm in the door. I don't care if I'm making pennies, I'm in.
Right.
Now it's a matter of wiggling my way to the top, but I'm in. And that's exactly what happened. I turned that $6.25 an hour marketing job into an opportunity. Hey, I can fill in and run the board for this radio show if you want me to. Now I'm being paid $11 an hour. You know, I'm like, great. This is, to me, that's a promotion. And then Bruce, our CEO at the time, said, hey, look, I mentioned we were launching new radio sticks in the city. One of them is ESPN Deportes. It's a Spanish language radio station. It's going to be nationally syndicated, so don't worry about it. But nobody here speaks Spanish. You don't have to do anything. You just have to make sure the commercials run on time, and that's it. Because you can actually understand the language. I said, okay, you know, and they ended up hiring me again, now I'm making a salary, but making like 30K, making pennies. And they said, okay, but to me, again, I'm in. And the best thing that I got from that job was a weekly meeting with the CEO. And I would go to the CEO's office and say, hey, look, Bruce, this is never going to work because you need to have local programming. Well, we don't have any money for local programming. You know what? I'll do it for free. That's what I would tell them, because to me, it was an opportunity. And that snowballed into, you know, I ended up doing my own show. It ended up grabbing traction and it was good. I would go cover a Nationals game and interview some players in Spanish, but maybe the English language reporter was sick. So I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll ask him in English and then I'll ask him in Spanish. So then I had my Spanish radio show, but then became a fill-in type in English language. Then that snowballed into an opportunity with the Washington Redskins. At the time, I put together, again, for a DC kid, for somebody that grew up in the area, to me it was a dream come true, because I put together the first play-by-play broadcast in Spanish for the Washington Redskins. And I did that for 2 years. So that's another opportunity that snowballed. And then again, more eyeballs, more people listening to you, more people hearing you, more people watching you. That then snowballed into an opportunity with the local television station, WZDZ Telemundo. And they said, hey, we need a television sports anchor. You have this, radio background. Can you do TV? I had been practicing and doing mini little video reels and things like that with the Redskins to be able to give me the reps that I needed. I ended up taking the job and being the local TV guy in Spanish for Telemundo in DC, while at the same time, if anybody needed anything in English, I'd pop in and just do it in English. If somebody was sick, hey, no worries, I'm already here, I'll get it. So I ended up doing that, and then that's when the national networks like ESPN, like CBS, like NBC, they all kind of took eye to that, and they said, hey, there's this 26-year-old kid in DC who's kind of a snowball a little bit of a career. Let's give him a shot nationally. And yeah, by then I had an agent, and my agent got me the audition up at ESPN. I auditioned. I think I nailed it, and then I ended up taking that contract, and then eventually moving on to kind of help other networks to launch their own networks with CBS Sports HQ, with ASN and whatnot.
And what's interesting, as you mentioned, that is a lot of times you just mentioned something good where you were proactive in it, proactive in going after what you wanted, but also you were establishing networking opportunities and network connections and just really taking the initiative to put yourself out there. Because a lot of
Yeah,
times, it's all about taking risks. It's all about stepping out of your comfort zone and helping anyone who needs your help. So that was
yeah.
really interesting, as you mentioned that.
Look, at the end of the day, like I always say, it's you know, who you know may get you the opportunity, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but what you know is going to quickly determine whether you keep that opportunity or not. So it's a combination of both. Yeah, sure. The networking is key. It's super important. Get to know everybody. Be nice to everybody. That's a key word. Be nice to everybody. There's a lot of people, especially in television, that maybe sometimes egos explode and things like that. At the end of the day, we're not delivering babies or doing brain surgery. We're just talking on TV. Just be nice. So that opened a lot of relationship networking doors. Then, I'm a big believer of reach one, teach one. You get to a certain level, turn around and reach out and teach somebody how to get there. And, I've done that speaking at several journalism classes, at George Mason and speaking with you and, having different interns talk with me and whatnot, because that's how you get there. Just network your butt off, but at the same time, work your butt off. So when that guy or girl that does give you that opportunity, say, hey, look, I'm going to vouch for Wes, or I'm going to vouch for Jorge because I think he's a good guy, give him a shot. You don't want to let him down, and you want to make sure you nail it. That's where the work comes in. That's where the hard work comes in. And that's where you get to a point where you continue to excel.
And while working at ESPN, what were some of the biggest lessons you've learned, and how did you grow professionally and personally?
Well, that's a great question. Excuse me. One of the biggest lessons I learned at ESPN was that you're not going to please everybody. Now you're talking about a national network. Now you're talking about eyeballs from coast to coast. I also did some Deportes stuff. So in my case, we're talking about national English language eyeballs and ears, international Spanish language eyeballs and ears. And at my time there, I also hosted Sports Center for ESPN Europe, which means I'm in Europe now. So we're looking at a lot of eyeballs. And look, I'm not sick. I sound like this all the time. This is my voice. That's one of the unique things about me. Some people are going to love it. And I got, you jump on Twitter, social media, and people are like, great, that's awesome. The raspy voice, this and that. And at the same time, some people are going to hate it. And you jump on Twitter, you jump on Instagram, and they're like, oh my God, I got to put my TV on mute when you're on TV. What I learned at ESPN was you have to have thick skin. You can't please everyone. As long as you're working hard, you're coming prepared, and you're nailing your assignment, you're executing your show correctly, that's the best you can hope for. And yeah, you hope that some people are gonna like you, and look, some people are not. Like, it is what it is. People have preferences. Like, you can't let that hurt your feelings. I think a lot of people get their feelings hurt real quick, and you got to have tough skin. So that was probably my biggest lesson that I learned at ESPN. And then my second biggest lesson, which I think it's a staple for all journalists out there, is that, a lot of people think that, oh, you have to be first. You have to be first. You have to be first. You have to break the news first. You have to do it right. Yeah, you have to do that. Yeah, that's cool. That's important. Being first is awesome. But more important than being first is being correct.
Right.
A lot of people, they want to break the news, and then all of a sudden they get a fact wrong, a stat wrong, the name, they mispronounce the name, something, and now all of a sudden it don't look very good. So, one of the things I learned is, be very meticulous with your work, be very detail oriented, ask questions. And it's okay if you don't break the news, as long as you supplement it and do it in a correctly, in a professional fashion. And lastly is, look, you're going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Somebody's going to accidentally stumble on their words on TV, or maybe somebody's going to slip up and say, get taken out of context, or say something this and that. At the end of the day, like, we're all human. It's fine to make mistakes. I'll tell you right now, I'll make every mistake in the book, but I'll also tell you that I'll only make it once. I won't make it again. So you stumble, you learn, you move on. You stumble, you learn, you grow, you move on. That's how it is.
And one of the things that you just touched on, what I think is so important for not only journalist students to know, but just whether you're in broadcast journalism in general, is resilience and having thick skin and not being afraid to make mistakes. And what's special about you is you were able to bounce back from that. Oh, Jorge said something about Jeremy Lin, or that was wrong, but that was never your intention, and you were able to take it with thick skin and move forward and not let it get to you, and not crumble under the pressure.
Sure. And look, like, if everybody had a time machine, could you go back in time and do things differently? Of course. But as long as and you have to be honest with yourself. Like, if you make a mistake, like I did, for example, it was never intended ever to be that way. It was completely taken out of context. But again, I go back to, there are going to be people that you're going to please, and there are going to be people that are going to nitpick and say, oh my gosh, this and that. It is what it is. You can't please everybody, but you have to recognize and say, okay, all right, well, next time, like, although I was trying to make a pop culture reference to a TV show, next time, I'll think twice before trying to be extra witty or something like that. So you have to be able, you can't let that crush you, like, look, at the end of the day, we're human. We make mistakes. And at the end of the day, we're not delivering babies. We're not doing brain surgery. If I stumble on a word, nobody's going to die. Like, we're good. So I think as long as you have that mentality, you can kind of just have things roll off of you.
When working in network television, what are some of the things you've noticed as far as behind the scenes, as far as diversity, as far as providing opportunities for not just women, but for people of color? Have you seen that change in the years that you've been working it, and where do you see it going in the near future?
That's a great question. First of all, the people behind the scenes, are amazing journalists, amazing people. People on camera, we get a lot of credit, and our job is very difficult, but we would not be able to do our job without your directors, your producers, your PAs, your APs, your graphic designers, all those guys. I mean, they're amazing. In terms of diversity and inclusion, I think that we are getting there. I don't think that it's there yet, but with organizations like NAHJ or NABJ, those are really good ones to be able to try to network, like I just mentioned earlier, and get people of color, African Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, to try to sprinkle that onto a network, because in my opinion, television should be a representation of what the country is, and what you cover should be a representation of that. And yeah, sure, there are some stories that African Americans or Hispanics or white people or Asian people or Indian Americans or whatnot, they're going to touch everybody. So if you're going to touch all those stories, you better have anchors, producers, directors that are of all different colors, shapes, and sizes. That's the best way to do it. I think we're getting there. I think including women is a big step, and I think that we've seen huge leaps in local and national networks. I know a lot of high-level executives that are now women, which is fantastic, because just like there's a Hispanic story that I may want to share, there's a female perspective to that story or to another story that's just as important. In that same breath, I think there's a lot of work to do. There certainly is a lot of work to do. But my hope is that networks are starting to realize that, starting to see that, and trying to find unique opportunities for it to organically grow. Because one thing that you can't do is you can't force feed somebody something.
Right.
You can't force feed, oh, well, let's have Jorge do this highlight that's soccer and have him do it in Spanish. Like, then you're gonna upset somebody that doesn't want to hear that. So it has to organically happen, and there are unique opportunities to do that. And you just got to find them. And the way you find them is by, sprinkling people of color and females into your newsroom.
And during your career, early on in the interview, you mentioned you were able to, just by creating a demo reel of some clips that you have done in college and field reporting and things of that nature, you're able to create a reel, and that helped you get representation from one of the top management companies in the business. So what has that experience been like, and what advice would you give to a college student looking to get an agent in sportscast journalism and broadcast journalism?
Right. So, get things on tape, get on tape, because look, every time you get something new on tape, you're going to hate the other stuff. And then you're going to hate the other stuff, and it's going to continue. You got to get your reps. You got to get your practice in. And, first of all, no agent's going to even look at you if you don't have a reel. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's super key to have a reel. And not all agents, but some agents will look at it. Maybe they won't like it. Maybe they'll say, hey, look, I can't work with you. But some agents will give you some pointers like tweak this, tweak that. And again, it's part of growth. It's part of getting better until you eventually, and this is where the hard work / luck comes in hand. Eventually, you find someone or several people that do take a chance on you. My first agent was Michael Klein. He's now with CAA. He was with Max Sports and Entertainment. And, he took a shot, again, a 26-year-old kid that was doing Spanish language TV, and said, you know what, go try to do it in English all over the country. And it worked out, but he took that shot, that chance, because he saw the potential in the work. And the way you get there is by continuing to have that tape. I remember I would go and do a stand-up or something in Spanish. And the camera guys were there, and I look at the guy, and we'd be done with our stand-up, and I'd be like, hey, look, I'll buy you a beer at the, when we're all done today with work, if you just keep rolling, and let me just redo that whole thing, but let me do it in English. It's not going to air anywhere. It's not going to go on TV anywhere. It's just for my records, and things like that, small things like that. I collected more tape, and I was able to refine my craft and really polish it before I handed it to, the Michael Kleins, the Mark Lepselters, who's my current agent now, for them to review and for them to find opportunities.
And it's interesting that you mentioned comedy, because you've actually had experience doing stand-up comedy. And in an article, you mentioned that it helps prepare on-air talent being conversational personalities. It helps you be witty, develop humor, sharpen your tools. What intrigues you about comedy, and is it something that you potentially would like to do if you ever decide to leave broadcasting?
I mean, I would love to do it. It'd be amazing. It's a lot of hard work, that's for sure. But again, writing, radio, television, comedy, acting, they're all kind of related in the sense that it's all performance-based, and your performance can be written word. It could be radio arguments. It could be, driving a show, if you will, as a host, or it could be stand-up comedy. And a lot of things a lot of people don't know about stand-up comedy is that every word that they say is written, right? In the sense that, like, they write all their material and they memorize all that. And it's like reading a script. You memorize a script. And not just down to the word, but down to the timing of how you deliver it. So when you look at television and comedy writing, for example, it's very similar. If I'm writing a lead for the 11 o'clock Sports Center about the Washington Nationals, the way I deliver that lead is I write it. So maybe I want to be funny with it. Maybe I want to be serious with it. Maybe I want to, have it be stat driven. I time it because sometimes if you just read off a prompter without any pauses, like you can't get your point across.
Right.
Sometimes getting your point across means punching a word or leaving that awkward pause to maybe get some comedy into it. So that's what comedy writing and stand-up comedy did for me. I did it when I decided to do it, and I still do it today. I didn't want to do it as a career, as a profession. I didn't think I was that funny, number one, but I did it as okay, well, I'm in a new city, because again, you travel, you move for this career, and I was like, I'm in a new city. I want to continue to work on my craft, which is writing. And I want to continue to polish my ad-libbing type of craft. And I found a comedy class. I really loved it, and kept going at it. And then that's just continued in DC and Connecticut and New York and now in Florida, where I reside now. It's just been a big part of it because it's helped me polish my writing, my delivery. And look, sometimes if you make a mistake or do something wrong on television, it's the camera. That's it. You wait and you hear about it later. In comedy, it's an entire live crowd. So you'll get to know real quick when something didn't go as well. So again, that was growth in terms of tough skin, in terms of writing, in terms of delivery. And to me, that was a fun kind of way to meet new people that also helped me improve and polish my craft.
And what has your experience been like working in metropolitan cities, such as you mentioned New York, Florida? You've gone to many different places throughout your career. What has that experience been like? Not only opening the doors for career opportunities, but what has it been like personally for you?
DC, New York, Florida, Boston, and Los Angeles are some of the places that I've done work with, and they've been. I mean, I'm being a Northern Virginia, DC metro guy. I'm a big city guy. I love big cities. It's not for everybody, obviously, but you do tend to find more opportunities in big cities just because more networks are in larger cities, versus smaller towns. But to me, it's just been part of my background. I've just always been a city guy. It's helped me with opportunities. And, this country's beautiful. It's amazing. So to be able to experience all those different places, it's truly been something that I have thanked my career for very much so, because it's something I don't know if I would have been able to do it if I had any other career.
And during this unprecedented time that we're currently in, what are some things you hope to accomplish in the future, and what are some of your goals for 2021?
So, there's a lot. We live in a very interesting time right now. Zoom calls are a thing. A lot of television networks and local TVs stations are doing television like this through Zoom, through a home background and things like that. That's what they're doing. And I think the positive part, if you can look at it that way in terms of the industry, is that networks and television stations have found unique and creative ways to be able to produce content, which, we maybe wouldn't have stumbled upon, or maybe it would have taken longer to stumble upon. Mm-hmm. OTTs and streaming devices have been huge. When I was at ESPN, it was kind of like the beginning of OTT apps and streaming devices. Then I went on to, CBS Sports HQ, which now has a 24/7, almost mini ESPN type of thing, all through an OTT streaming device. Fubo TV, you can get television through streaming, Apple TV. And I think it's the pandemic has propelled or accelerated, I should say, the growth of digital streaming television. And I think you're only going to continue to see it even more and more in the future. In that sense, And in terms of, what we're doing now, the NFL is a huge thing for me. We're working on a couple projects with the NFL, hoping that a couple things, pan out well, not only in South Florida, but nationally with a couple of networks that I can't mention right now, but until that contract signed. But there's hopefully a really good NFL project that we're going to work on. I have been in the process of also writing a book. I've always had a career in sports. Sports has always been my bread and butter, but I'm passionate about immigration reform in the United States. Just because I love sports and I do sports doesn't mean I don't listen and follow, the entire world and the country as a whole, like a lot of people do. And immigration, not only as being an immigrant in the United States, but immigration reform has been a huge platform for me that my wife and I have tried to continue to push. I'm hoping that this book will open a lot of eyes to a lot of people. Release date is still TBD, but we're hoping that we'll have some marketing materials and kind of start laying out the foundation of this book marketing-wise by the end of the year. And it's going to be something that I certainly hope helps a lot of people and pushes the needle and the envelope on immigration reform. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and my wife is as well. So those are two current projects that we're working with right now towards the end of the calendar year, and then we'll see what the pandemic and what the future holds.
And you mentioned digital streaming platforms. Do you think you would ever consider creating your own podcast in the near future?
Absolutely. We've had a couple of conversations already about doing a podcast. We haven't pulled the trigger on it given the pandemic, obviously, and the logistics of things. But also, again, the topics. The topic is a thing. A sports podcast, I could do that all day, any day in my sleep. And whether we do that with an ESPN and NBC, a Telemundo, a CBS, like I'm always game for that. Everybody knows that. My agent knows that. But it would be interesting to look at different ideas, and I've kind of kicked around ideas of whether it would be an immigration reform type of thing, or I'm a new father. I'm a new dad, and I've kicked around the idea about having a podcast around that, and kind of putting other television folks, professional athletes, in the same window and in the same podcast, and kind of just talk about being a new dad. It's a whole new world. So it's something that we've definitely are looking to possibly pursue.
And growing up, was doing charity and giving back to the community, was that something that you were taught at home? And was that something that you were raised upon to give back to the community? And how have you, because you already mentioned it before, but what has it been like using your platform to do philanthropy and charity work? I know you've also been very active doing charity in the DC area as well.
Mm-hmm. Look, it's part of who I am. It's part of who my family is. We, like I mentioned earlier, we came to the United States, immigrated to the United States with nothing really. My dad worked a million jobs. My mom worked a million jobs. They taught themselves English at home, night school, and that was very inspiring. It was very, I commend them so much for it. I don't want to say that we were ever poor, but we didn't really have too much. But the biggest thing for me was that we never even noticed it because we were so happy at home. And as I grew up and as an adult now, I look back and I'm like, man, all of that the way in which we were raised was always a positive Christian way, to be honest with you, on how to treat people and how to help people. And we saw that happen to us, and we immediately turned around and did it again. My family, my mother and my father, they do charity work to this day. Mm-hmm. Every Christmas they hold a big toy drive for a bunch of, a whole bunch of kids in Fredericksburg through their church. And I try to kind of emulate what they've taught me and what they've done now as an adult and now as a father. I want to continue to do that just because at the end of the day, it's not for marketing. It's not for publicity. It's not for anything. It's just being a good guy.
Right.
Just not that hard. It's just being a good person. And, whether it's, helping out at a soup kitchen, or whether it's doing a toy drive, or whether it's donating some suits to veterans, or whether it's, doing a stand-up comedy show for an orphanage, whatever it may be, it's for a good cause and it's the right thing to do. And I wish more people just looked at it that way. Like, it's not for the gram. It's not for anything. It's just for the karma, if you will. It's for being a good guy. My wife is very involved in an orphanage in Haiti, and giving back is one thread that we share, something that we have in common of many things, and it's just an important staple in my life, in her life, and in our families. And I think that's just the way we were raised, and the way we're going to raise our daughter, and the right thing to do.
Well, Jorge, the Tartan knew we were interviewing you today, so we couldn't let you go without doing a quick fire rapid round of questions. I want to get your thoughts on this, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you two choices, and you can only pick one, okay?
Okay.
Netflix or Hulu?
Ooh, Netflix all day.
NBA or NFL?
NFL all day. I love the NBA, but football's number one.
Having a party in the daytime or having a party at night?
See, I feel like my answer has changed in this. When I was at Radford University at George Mason in my 20s, I would say let's go out at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. and party at night. But now I'm more of a day drinking guy, if you will. If I'm having, maybe I can make a barbecue, have a couple of beers with my friends during the day, and get to bed at a nice time.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles all day.
Bacon or sausage?
Ooh, that's a really hard one. I want to go sausage, but the links, not the patties.
Favorite male actor?
Ooh, okay. Well, this is a great one. He's my favorite male actor, my favorite comedian, and just an all-around amazing performer rather. Very dearly missed. Very, very dearly missed. I've always been a huge fan, and will continue to be a huge fan of Robin Williams.
If you had one ticket and you were invited to, and you had one ticket and you can either go to the Oscars, the Met Gala, or the Emmys, or the ESPYs, which one would you choose?
Well, the ESPYs I've been to. I've been lucky enough to do that. The Emmys, I hope that one day a national Emmy will be in my name, so I hope to get that. It would be between the Met Gala and the Oscars, and I'd have to say the Oscars 100%.
Last movie that you just recently watched?
Ooh, good question. What was it? Was a Netflix movie. Those count, or are you talking movie theater?
Any movie.
Okay, so Netflix movie. Okay, so actually it wasn't a Netflix movie. It was one of those random Saturdays. There's nothing on TV. We're going to lay on the couch and do nothing type of days. And on, I think it was TNT or USA, they were replaying Independence Day.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up watching that. That's the last movie I watched.
Walmart or Target?
Target all day. Target.
Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme?
Ooh, Krispy Kreme. Dunkin' Donuts for the coffee, though. The coffee's good, but you can't touch Krispy Kreme.
Chick-fil-A or McDonald's?
Chick-fil-A all day, except for Sundays.
Home cooked dinner or eating at a restaurant?
Who's cooking? That's a big question.
Your family, anyone from your family.
Okay. I mean, my father's a very good cook, so I would say a home cooked meal. And we don't get those often since we live far away, so that's always a good thing.
Swimming or riding a bike?
Riding a bike. I did a triathlon about a year ago, and swimming's hard. It's very, very, very hard. So I'm definitely going to go ride a bike.
Working in the office or doing a Zoom meeting, just a Zoom meeting like anywhere?
Um, I'm an office guy. I like to be in studio. I like to be in a newsroom.
And last question, what's the best lesson that you've ever, no, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
Best advice that I've ever received is, I touched on it a couple of times. Um, work hard, work very hard, but don't be afraid to make mistakes because everybody makes mistakes. Network so that you get the opportunity, but make sure you do your homework so that you don't squander the opportunity. Um, and at the end of the day, once you reach there, you reach your goal, turn around, reach your hand out and pull somebody up with you. Um, being kind doesn't hurt anybody. Makes people better.
Jorge, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. Radford University really appreciates it. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it, Wes. I appreciate the time. And, I loved every minute that I was at Radford University. It was awesome. I miss it very much. And I hope to be down there again soon.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Wes.